What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 6 of the Steam Deck Podcast, Flip Screen Games' weekly video game podcast, all about Valve's hot new handheld, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always from a very good friend and co-host, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. So here's my question for you. I was thinking about this the other day. How long until I have to change the intro of this show? Like, when is the Steam Deck no longer a hot new handheld? When?
I don't know, because we have
Couple
this thing
months?
in this country as well, and it always makes me laugh. It's like when they put new on packaging for something.
Yeah.
How long is it new?
Right.
Is it until it's like a first run and then it's gone? I think you've probably got till the end of the year. It's like, how long is next gen before you stop calling it next gen and it becomes current gen? Because there's still developers saying only available for next gen consoles. It's just like,
Or like
two years into this generation,
or like providing a truly next gen experience. It's like, aren't we already like, we're in it, right? Like,
yeah, we're in the gen.
Theoretically,
it's drop next gen.
Theoretically, it's a quarter of the way over. Like, like we're in it, bro. Yeah, it's a good question. Speaking of good questions, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about here today. Steam Deck had a big old showing at the Tokyo Game Show this week, which, I guess I shouldn't have been as surprised by. We talked last week about the Steam Deck booklet and how they were clearly, trying to have a presence at TGS, but they really went all out. Like, this is the biggest presence I feel like I've ever seen Valve had at like a convention or something like this that wasn't, something they controlled. So very interesting. I'm excited to talk all about it, as well as the fact that somebody out there in the wild has the Steam Deck dock, which of course we had a whole episode talking about it a couple weeks back. So like, I just feel like we're getting follow-ups on all these major stories. And then yet even another thing, we got a look at a bunch of Steam Deck prototypes this week, which, we kind of saw them in like a very, very small format in the Steam Deck booklet, but again, cool to get the follow-up here, dig in a little bit more. So we got a lot to talk about this week. It's going to be a fun one. But before we get into that, let me remind you that this week's episode of the Steam Deck Podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of September. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Asobi, Mary Berry, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You are the realest of the real, and we appreciate your support of this and our fine sister shows. If you want to go and show your support just like they did, if you want to get your name read on the air, if you want to get early access to all of our podcasts, if you want to get our Patreon exclusive podcast, one more thing, go ahead over to the Patreon, patreon.com/flipscreengames. However you show your support, we appreciate you helping us keep the mics rolling on this show. But if you don't have any money to toss our way, that's no big deal. Head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find links on all the places that you can find us all over the web, including our second YouTube channel where we throw up archives of our Twitch streams, which, again, twitch.tv/flipscreengames, our Discord, our email address. However you want to get involved, however you choose to tune in, we appreciate you joining us for another episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. So, let's jump into it. Steve, I'm going to kick it to you here because you have curated some highlights for Steam Deck's appearances at one TGS, and you've been sending me cool stuff all day while I've been working. So I think you've had your finger on the pulse of what's been going on there. I've seen some highlights I'm excited to talk about, but most of what I've seen has come from you. So why don't you kick things off? Where do you want to start here?
Yeah, so they were teasing that they were there all this week, because obviously TGS proper kicked off, I think it was yesterday, Wednesday in Japan, so it's kind of early. It was Thursday, which is when we record, like UK and US time. But they have one of the biggest booths there, alongside Konami, THQ, Square Enix. They're right in there. They're under the Komodo booth, which is their Asian distributor that they spoke about in their booklet that we talked about on last week's episode, or the week before. And they've built this giant Steam Deck. And they've had like a bunch of tweets on their On Deck JP Twitter account talking about this giant Steam Deck that they were building. It's made out of wood with these like beautifully carved buttons and stuff, and they have this up in the air at their booth broadcast like with like photos and videos of like gameplay or like broadcasting what footage they're showing at the booth. Because they've had a bunch of presentations. They think they've got a couple more scheduled, but today's was a presentation with the creative director of Square Enix's Forspoken, Ryo Mitsuno, and he spoke in details to like it running on Steam Deck. They showed a little bit of footage of the game running on the Steam Deck, which was really cool. It's only in Japanese, unfortunately. There's not been a subtitle, a English subtitle yet. I'm hoping that will be there, but we'll put a link to the original video in the description if you want to check that out. And they've just had a bunch of cool stuff there. Like they've got a wall of Steam Decks showing like different games. They'd obviously had advanced knowledge that Sega was going to announce Judgment and Lost Judgment coming to Steam. And they like had posters prepped for that and were showing that off at the booth. And it's not just Valve's booth or the Steam Deck booth that has Steam Decks. Over at Atlus's booth, there's also Persona 5 Royal running on a Steam Deck.
This was so cool to see.
Really cool.
You kind of see like the the kiosks that you always see at these type of events, right? And it's Sony, it's PlayStation, and then it's Steam, and it's like, wow, like it's certainly very different, right? Like very, very cool to see.
Yeah, it's like in there with the other big players, and I think this is the first confirmation that we've got that this officially is going to be Steam Deck verified, because they've announced that it's coming to PC, obviously, but we didn't know if it was going to be one of those games that wasn't functional on Steam Deck for whatever reason. But if Atlus are there showing it at their own booth, playing on the Steam Deck, I would imagine that Persona 5 Royal is going to be day one Steam Deck verified that we'll be able to jump into, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it sure seems that way. Quick apologies for that little bit of background noise there while Steve was talking. I was trying to pull up the Persona video, and you just hear the showroom, just the hiss of the crowd. So sorry about that.
But yeah, really cool. I would imagine we'll see more as the show continues into the weekend, and there's probably going to be more announcements coming. We've got still Konami's show to go, which I think is rumored to have some stuff with Metal Gear and Silent Hill. So maybe some more PC announcements to come from that. But already still a bunch of cool stuff coming out of TGS. And the other interesting thing at the Steam Deck booth is they've got the dock, the infamous, elusive Steam Deck dock on display at the booth for everyone to see. And really weird, someone on Reddit has one of them. Like, just posted, because Valve's showing this off on TGS, I have one of these docks. And just posted it, and 15 days ago made a post like talking about like, oh, how does this compare to other docks? And no one noticed, no one believed that he had this dock, and has posted a picture of just the dock in their possession.
Totally wild.
And everyone was asking like, how did you get a hold of this? And the response was, it was handed to me to test. Who knows by who? Or why, or what,
or like who this person is, that they have that connection or whatever. But
the docks are out in the wild. Apparently, it comes in its own tiny little box, but it's the same adapter that you use with your current. Like you plug the Steam Deck AC into it, so I'd imagine it's probably just going to be a tiny little thing. But these things must be imminent, right? If they're out at the Steam Deck booth and they're out in the wild and people are testing them, when do you think we're actually going to get these? Do you think we're going to get them for the holiday season?
Part of me is thinking so, right? Because I mean, you think about it, right? The original timeline was summer, as we discussed on our episode where we discussed the dock in great detail. They announced, I think it was back in June, that they weren't going to hit that target. The idea that they would hit it in the next 2 quarters is like, I mean, that's not crazy, right? To think that they make it maybe by holiday season, or even if it's maybe not by the end of this year, like the beginning of next year or something like that. I feel like it's got to be in the next, 4 to 6 months, right? Unless unless they're still struggling to, replace that. I know there was like a production issue where the factory that was supposed to be producing them, I believe, was closed down. So I mean, that obviously notwithstanding, I mean, obviously they're able to get some of these made, right? To be handing them out to people, to be showing it off at a consumer event. Um, it's got to be around the corner.
I really hope so because I really want one, and this would be perfect for my Christmas list. Like this and a new turntable are like the only two things I want for Christmas. So please, Valve,
A
make it
turntable.
happen. Yeah, well, my record deck is just like ruined. It's like it loses speed all the time, but that's completely off topic.
I'm
Um,
learning. I didn't know you collected vinyl, but okay, I'll save that for one more thing, I guess.
and yeah, I really do think I really do think they're on the way, especially considering how much they've ramped up production of the Steam Deck, and they've been able to bring people from Q4 into Q3. If you order a Steam Deck now, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, that you order one now, you're still likely to get it before the end of the year. The like estimated arrival is still Q4, which is October to December. So I think I think they're ready to push these things out, and I really hope that means the docked experience comes with it, and we don't just get the hardware and then we've got to wait a little while for the software to catch up, which is kind of what happened with the Steam Deck itself. It felt like they pushed these things out in February and March, and it was just like right now we're waiting for all of these features that they would have liked to have got out the door to kind of make it in, like the screen refresh rate, like
Yeah,
little tidbits and features and stability and stuff like that to catch up.
I'm inclined to think that it will be more like that than not, right? Like I what you just said, I think the idea of them like launching it alongside like a docked experience mode or something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen, but I imagine that that will be fairly feature light, and that much like the Steam Deck itself, it'll probably see very frequent iteration, and like you'll be able to opt into like a beta experience and be able to get those features come to you quicker, like just the way we do with the Steam OS, right? That's my guess, right? Because that seems to be what their model is with the Steam Deck, is like, hey, like you're buying into this thing early, and like they're taking our user data and our feedback on what features we want and everything to improve the user experience, so that when it does become, more and more mass market, the folks that, have had to wait will have a better experience, right? I wouldn't be surprised if the dock follows a similar trajectory, but the idea that they are giving it out to people for testing, maybe that's what they're doing now behind the scenes, while they do have that kind of that gap that's been created by the production line getting messed up. Maybe they took advantage of that to do kind of more QA testing and kind of trying to get feedback from folks now, so that they can iterate on that docked experience, and when they are able to mass produce it and get it in our hands, that it is further along. I think either of those are possible, but given what my experience with the Steam Deck has been, I would expect less, but be confident that the updates will come quickly, because I feel like we talk about a new software or OS feature almost every other week on this show. So the idea that even if it's not quite there out the gate, I think within a few months of you using it, you'll have what you're looking for, probably.
I hope so. I really do. I think some of the stuff can't be fixed. I think some of it is at the game level, like wanting needing to change the resolution and stuff. But I do think there are some things that can be improved to the experience that we spoke about already. And I really hope that this means it's on the way. The next thing I'd like to see them tackle is go back to that Steam controller and build one that feels nice and is paired and works nicely with the Steam Deck. Because I'd like a Steam Deck, a Steam Deck dock, and a Steam controller as kind of one cohesive package that I can then use it on the TV nicely, and then like take it away with me, and like the controls are all the same and consistent. Like I've still got an L4 and an L5 and an R4 and an R5, and I've got the trackpads if I want to, so I can play all of the games that I can play on the handheld, I can then take them and play them on my TV in the exact same way, which would be really nice without having to reconfigure any inputs.
Yeah, yeah. I'd be interested in seeing them return to the idea because, as I've said often on this show, the original experience, I think, with the Steam controller was wanting. Though we have gotten some comments with folks who disagree. I don't know. I think now, like, seeing how much they've learned about developing hardware from what they've done with Vive or no, not Vive. That's HTC. What's their thing called? Index?
The Index.
Yeah. With what they've done with Index and then Steam Deck, like, I'm really impressed by the quality of the Steam Deck and its build and them taking those learnings and applying it to, maybe the same idea that they had behind the Steam controller, but with updated technology and, not trying to do like the concave touch thing as a replacement for sticks as much as like.
I think that's his big flaw is it's missing that second stick, so it missed that level of familiarity the gamers had. Like, yes, I want gyro in there. Yes, I want trackpads in there, but I also want two sticks so that I can just play the game as I expect to. And if I can have it in the same configuration and same setup as my Steam Deck with those really nice chunky
I don't know how you do that
trackpads.
Though. Like, how do you fit all that on a controller comfortably?
I mean, you take the screen out and you stick the two sides together. I feel like you can have a similar experience for the Steam Deck. Like, it can be same placements. You can have the D-pad in the top left and the buttons in the top
but
right.
How big is it?
And I have no idea.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think people want to hold a controller that's like the size of an iPad. But
I don't. Well, Nintendo thought so. Nintendo thought you wanted to hold an iPad,
and we didn't.
Wii U with it,
and we didn't. You saw what happened. You can't do that. I don't know, man. It's tough though, because I agree with you. I feel like that would be a great way to have that experience. But I think maybe it comes back to the idea that if you want to have the tactile control of like a mouse pad type experience, like a mouse experience, you're probably better off plugging the Steam Deck into the dock and then using a wireless mouse and keyboard for games like that.
Yeah, quite possibly. I don't know. I feel like it's possible, and I feel like they must be working on something.
I'm just trying to imagine, how do you get a D-pad, face buttons, two sticks, and two trackpads on a controller?
Yeah, it's tough.
Like,
it is tough. I mean, they've got the one trackpad. Maybe that's what you do. You go with the one.
I'm holding up a PlayStation controller for you audio listeners. We're looking at a DualSense right now, and it's just like I don't know how you do it without making this thing way longer.
I guess that's why they went with two trackpads, no D-pad, and no extra stick on the original.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, like, you're also talking about wanting to have back buttons on it, and then I want
the back buttons. I think you can do the back buttons. Sony's doing the back buttons on their new whatever it's called.
No, for sure. But my point is, how do you shove all that in one controller and not have it be
too much,
just bulky as hell? Yeah, like I feel like you're gonna be like approaching like Xbox Duke territory, but like maybe even bigger than that, and like that's just a meme waiting to happen.
So it's going to be like the Sega Saturn controller that looked like the actual planet Saturn.
Yeah, where it's just like, what the fuck is this?
Circle.
Yeah, I feel like that's what you end up staring the barrel down if you're trying to figure out how do we completely replicate the experience of holding a Steam Deck in your hands, but it doesn't have a screen.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something at the moment when I go and play PC games on the TV. Like, there's no way for me to play Age of Empires on my TV without a mouse, and the trackpads do such a phenomenal job. And I feel like if I had a modern Steam controller that had those trackpads on, I mean, maybe the solution is to go with what they did for the Steam controller, and it's just like, this is designed for PC games. This is the keyboard and mouse experience, and if you want to play like a first-person shooter or whatever, you go and you pick up your Xbox controller or your DualSense, or your Switch Pro controller.
And like, maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's something to the idea of like having like a more like boutique controller experience in the way that like we have these 100+ plus dollar pro controller type things where it's like if you want a really modular whatever, right? But like the idea of being like, how much you charging me for that? For me to buy a controller I can't use with like half my library, right? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, but I feel like if you're into those kind of games, if RTS is your like
I
bread
feel like
and
if
butter,
RTS
right?
is your bread and butter, you're going to use a
You're
wireless
playing on a
mouse and
PC
keyboard.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
you
but
are,
even if you're
yeah.
doing Steam Deck, you're doing wireless mouse and keyboard, right? Like, why not? You know, because even in the scenarios that you've described where you're like, oh, like I'm playing a horror game with friends and like it's on the TV and it's like more, you know, and you've figured out a Steam Deck layout that you can use, but like, why not with the dock get a decent wireless, you know, mouse and keyboard, plug that into your Steam Dock into one of the permanent ports, and then you just keep that next to all your controllers. And when you want to play a game that's mouse and keyboard on the TV, you just pop them out and toss them on your desk, right? Or you get one of those little like the wooden laptop things, you know? You ever seen one of those?
I have seen those. Yeah, I have one of those for my bath.
Yeah, right. Like
put that on.
totally. Yeah, I have one of those too. And like Sarah has one that we have next to the couch that she uses when she plays like Skyrim on her gaming laptop, you know, or whatever game she's playing. That's what she's playing right now, right?
How are you not letting her play that on your Steam Deck? Like seriously, are you that cruel?
Yo, she was giving me shit the other day because I let her play my Steam Deck when I first got it, and she was playing Simpsons Hit and Run, and she was like, "Are you ever gonna let me play your Steam Deck again?" I was like, "You've literally never asked me before, right now." So, but I forgot to bring this up. My Steam Deck pre-order came through, and I gave it to my bandmate and one of my my best friend M, and I was like, dang, maybe I should have got that for Sarah, you know?
Yeah.
I think I gotta get her.
Although,
I gotta get her a Steam Deck.
I know. A friend of mine has just had his come through, and I don't know if he's gonna get it. So I might have a reservation for you if you want it.
So is he an American?
No.
I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know if they'll let us
maybe.
do that.
Yeah, I don't think it does. That's different queue. You're right. Yeah.
They'll be like, we gotta ship this from the middle of Europe to Philadelphia. Why? Like, yeah, we'll see. Maybe I could jump back in queue next year. Well, she's got a Steam account, so I'll do it on hers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe for next year, 2023.
It won't even be next year. It'll be this year if you jump in now.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't have the money for it right now, you know? Weddings are expensive and stuff.
That's the Christmas gift, right? Santa's feeling generous.
Maybe.
This year.
Maybe. I don't even I'm trying to think. I bought her a Switch. I don't even remember if that was like for an event. If I just got it, I was just like, I want you to have a Switch. Here you go.
Yeah, that's what I did with Macaulay's Switch because it was just like Animal Crossing's out, and I don't want to share my island with you, and
right.
You look really interested in this game, so here's a Switch
there
and a
go.
copy of Animal Crossing.
Merry pandemic. So one of the other things that you called out on the doc was there. I gotta play my American card here. I don't know how to pronounce the back half. Pierre-Loup Graffet. Thank you. I can say it, but just reading it, I'm like, I'm gonna butcher this. You've been to France 10, 15 times. I know you said that, so.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though he's like in Washington, so I would imagine he's probably from stateside. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, but he still has a very French name. I don't want to mispronounce it and be rude. I know you know. You should know better than I, right? And if not, you're butchering his name, and I don't feel as bad. It's win-win for me.
No, I heard Lawrence Yang say his name in the great interview he did over on the Skill Up channel. So go check that out if you want to. So that's a good interview worth listening to.
So anyway, Pierre-Loup Graffet, who is, as it works at Valve, they have like weird titles. So I'm just gonna read his Twitter bios to contextualize who this person is for you if you don't know. Valve coder who now fights as Pierre-Loup Warrior, currently working on Steam Deck. So Pierre shared a couple tweets. which was as part of the Asia launch event. I'll just read his tweets. As part of the Asia launch press event, we made the design lab into a showroom of development history. My favorite are the playable prototypes, bootable deck family tree from mid-2019 to now, from a couple of hand-built units onto gradual mass production. So I thought this was really cool to just get a look at these. You know, like I love when like any company is transparent about design and the creative process, and this is the we talked all about that Xbox documentary, and they had like a whole episode about like how they came up with the box and all. Like, I find that stuff to be fascinating, especially when you think about like how they had to iterate to be like, this isn't comfortable, this doesn't work, this isn't, and you can see as it I have it up on the screen for the YouTube folks, and it's really funny to see like how many of the older ones like have like they have like very similar circular trackpads to the Steam controller, and like you can see like there's one that has like a super glossy finish and it's like all covered in fingerprints, and I bet you they were like, oh, that's gross, like let's do more matte. Like,
I actually really like that one because Pierre has a video of that one as well. But the thing that's most interesting to me, if you look at it from like earliest up to newest, like the bottom one, it's clearly like hand built, right? And the buttons, the D-pad, is like a Switch style D-pad. The sticks look like they're stolen from
a Vita,
a PlayStation Vita.
They look like Vita sticks. I'm pretty sure it's
yeah.
Joy-Con buttons and Vita sticks.
And Vita sticks, yeah, me too. And then you've got the track pads from the Steam controller, which is just so crazy to me. And yeah, I think they settled on a great design. Like, as much as I like the middle one, and everyone seems to be, their heart seems to be set on that middle one. It's very boxy, very square, very angular. I feel like
they're all square.
One of the things I love the most about the Steam Deck, though, is the grip and the fact that your hands go around it and it distributes that weight so evenly. And if it was like a perfect box like the Switch is, like this prototype seems to be, I feel like I would struggle to hold it. That one also reminds me so much of a Nintendo 2DS with the blue buttons.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, why are the buttons blue? And Pierre had a little bit more to say about that one. I don't know if you want to bring up his other tweet.
Actually, why don't you read the tweet? I have the video playing right now.
So he says the best part is that they mostly all still boot, serving as an exciting reminder of how far things have come. This one has a Picasso APU, which is about half the GPU power of the final deck. The flatter Ergo was an interesting experiment and taught us a lot about comfort. So that he goes into the fact that it was like a flatter, more square design than the actual Steam Deck turned out to be. But I really like that design. I think it looks cool. I'm glad that's not what they went with, though. I love the bigger, chunkier sticks, and I love the ergonomic
I think it'd
grip.
be uncomfortable. Yeah, like it looks better. It doesn't look like yeah, I think we can all be honest with ourselves, right? The Steam Deck is not a pretty device. It's definitely you've used the words it's utilitarian, right? Like it's built.
Yeah.
It's built to do what it needs to do, not to look sleek, right? This looks a lot sleeker, but I think it would be a decidedly worse experience to play on. The size and placement of those sticks is rough.
Oh yeah, the sticks are even far in from the sides of the console than the current one.
They're so little, and they don't
really
have the concave either. You know?
Yeah, so your fingers will be falling off them, and you don't have the grip to support it. I think it's interesting that you can see from there, though. The next one up is clearly similar to the Steam Deck we have today, with a few differences. Like this, it's clearly a more boxy shape. It's got completely straight sides, rather than that slight curvature. So it's like, yeah, we settled. We're honing it in, right? We're getting near where we landed with the Steam Deck, but it's not quite comfortable enough. So we need.
Well,
to,
even
like,
that one too. That one also has like the weird gloss to it. Right, like it looks like it has.
Doesn't have the texture on it.
Yes,
it hasn't been texturized plastic.
Yeah,
I think it's handmade.
And I really think that makes a big difference, though, right? Like, because like to me, it very much reminds me of the difference between looking at like the Wii U gamepad and the Nintendo Switch, right? And like one of these feels like a Fisher Price toy, and one of these feels like a high end video game console, right? And like I think that texture, like, that's such a big thing for me, and I don't know why. I can't even, like, like, I don't know. And it's a thing I've noticed, like, the more modern controllers have that, right? The back of this DualSense is textured. The back of my Xbox controllers are textured now. It's just more comfortable to hold. And I think especially with the handheld, like, I think that's part of the ergonomics is, like, my hands aren't sliding on it, because there is that, that almost granite like texture to it, right? That I think really it helps you just get a good grip on it,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that one, I'm zoomed in on the picture. It's clearly hand finished, handmade, but the buttons are even slightly different on it. Like, you've got circular buttons for the hamburger and cheese slices. In fact, they're both just hamburger menus. Hamburger buttons, and the sticks, they have like a glossy finish on top of the stick instead of the matte finish we got with the capacitive sticks that we ended up getting.
Oh God, I zoomed
It's
in and it's like the depth of fingerprints on this is just
Yeah,
nasty. It's
it's really
nasty.
bad.
I also like how it's like the Steam button and like the dot 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 button, but like they're not like painted. Like they're like very like
Yeah, did you notice on the earlier models though, there were just two Steam buttons? They hadn't decided on the dot 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 at that point. Like
oh
the like
yeah. Yeah.
the like squarey ones.
Yeah.
They're
I didn't realize
they're
that.
they're not defined yet. So they obviously hadn't decided what that second button was going to be. They just knew they wanted a second button there.
I kind of miss the off-colored button, I got to say. The
Oh, you
two
like for two
It's kind of cool, you know?
It is. It is cool. I don't know. I like the fact that they're all kind of sleek. One thing I wish that they'd have stuck with, and this was on the early press units as well, that they had that preview event last year, is that the sticks stayed black rather than having the white sticks. I'm just not a big fan of the like contrast color on it, but I know some people are a big fan of the white sticks.
I got to be honest with you, Steve. I never noticed that the sticks were white before right now.
Really?
I've never noticed that. I've never ever once thought about what color, because it's not the sticks, it's the underside of the sticks, right? Like the pads are black.
Yeah.
The sticks themselves are. I don't think I've ever thought about that until right now. And the fact that
Yeah.
you have an opinion on it is fascinating to me.
I have an opinion on it because it was one of the things that my Steam Deck went in for repair for.
The color?
Like, well, my Steam Deck's back, right? If we've got
Yeah.
time, I'll talk about it. But my Steam Deck's back. It went in for repair. The main reason it went in for a repair was
The trackpad, right?
the trackpad. It was jutting against the front of the case. But I also had another issue that I didn't even bother bringing up because it was so minor. The left stick would rub against the case, and so the right stick was perfectly smooth as a stick should be. But when I was walking dead straight in any game and just like doing micro corrections left and right, it would rub, and the black plastic was rubbing off onto the white stick. So I had like black residue on the white stick. So that's how I kind of know that the stick was white, because I could see little bits of the case slowly eroding away on my stick. Valve sent it back, and when it finally arrived back, they replaced the whole front case. They've replaced the trackpad. They're only the left trackpad because the right one still feels different. And both of the sticks are replaced, so I've got no issue with the rubbing, no issue with the trackpad.
I was really glad to
anymore.
hear that they sent you back the same original unit as well.
Yeah, same original unit. Still got my screen protector on there, which is great. So I don't have to buy another glass screen protector. That one's still on there, which is great. I was happy to have the same one back. The process was okay, I would say. I think time difference between support and the UK had a little bit. Took a little longer than maybe it needed to, because it was a lot of back and forth. Like, I would report that I had an issue. They'd come back and say, "Have you tried this?" I'd go back and say, "Yes, I've tried that." Then I'd have to wait for them to come back. So it took like 2 days for the RMA to even be processed, and then send it off. And then when it got there, the whole thing's entirely like opaque from them picking it up from your house and to it arriving. You have no idea if it arrives. I didn't get a tracking code or anything. It was just UPS shows up, takes it, and then you'll get an email when it arrives. It wasn't until like seven days later that it arrived back at Valve or at the repair center. And from then, it was then another week before I heard anything. Then it was repaired, and then it was being sent back. So they basically add another tracking code on the original order. It's like we're preparing to ship you a Steam Deck, and it's like you've just had another order. And it never arrived with UPS. Apparently, it went missing. And Valve said they handed it to UPS. It never got checked in with UPS. It was missing for 8 days, and then all of a sudden, and I guess it's because I contacted support, and Valve was just like, "Hey, what the fuck's going on? Where's the Steam Deck gone?" It got scanned in at some like sorting center, like about 3 hours away from my house, and was then rearranged delivery. And it was just like, you never even delivered it in the first place. Like, how are you rearranging delivery? And then it showed up the next day. So I was happy that it finally arrived back, but it took in total around about a month to get it
It was
sorted.
that long? Holy shit.
Yeah,
Man.
I believe so. Around about a month. Yeah. I
Wow.
sent it off on the 8th.
That's
I think I contacted them on the 20th of August.
I would just to clarify, I'm not even reacting to it having taken that long. I'm reacting to the fact that a month has gone by, and I'm totally unaware of that fact. It's like I was like, it was like 2-3 weeks. That's pretty long, and it's like, oh shoot, it's even longer than I thought. Okay,
Well, it was 2 weeks.
shit.
It was a week for them to even get it, and then like it took 2 weeks to get it back. So yeah,
But it
it's
spent like 8 days where you didn't even know where it was. So
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
it
it's
was
gone
probably
missing. Yeah.
literally just sitting in like a UPS warehouse
Yeah.
somewhere, like somebody just like forgot to scan it or whatever. Oh wow.
So, yeah. But it's finally back, and I'm really happy with it. The trackpads feel different now. It's clear that I feel like they've changed the part, and the right one now has a stronger haptic than the left one, whereas the opposite was true before. So I feel like maybe they've toned down the haptics, but neither of them rattle against the case, and I can just go into the calibration settings to either bump up the left one so it vibrates a little bit more, or tone down the right one so they kind of even out, which is nice. Um, and the main issue is that it doesn't rattle and it doesn't cause
Right.
any issues. And the stick doesn't rub anymore, which was a bonus because I didn't think they would fix that.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm glad that I'm glad it ended up working out, like all said and done, considering it was such a kind of like arduous process. So when did you actually get it back?
I got it back Tuesday,
Okay.
I think.
So how
Or
have
maybe
you
yesterday.
had a lot of time to play on it? Because I know that you were really starting to feel frustrated because like the Steam Deck's kind of become like one of your main platforms, if not your main
Yeah.
platform. And you were frustrated not being able to play on it.
No, I haven't had a lot of time to play on it because I've had to download every game again. Because it gets wiped when you send it off.
Oh,
So
really? So you still had to do
yeah,
all the
so that's
you still had to reinstall
I've got it all
everything?
set up again. It's like setting up a Steam Deck from scratch.
Oh, that's
So
awful. That's
um
awful.
that's
Oh,
one thing to note. If you send it in for repair, it will get wiped if you don't wipe it yourself. And yeah, so I've had to download all the games
you didn't
again
back
and stuff
everything
like
up?
there's no real way to like you can back up some games. Some games went onto my micro SD card, but there's no way to like back up like your MU deck setup and haven't downloaded all of that, or like if you've downloaded games to the internal storage, unless I had multiple SD cards to be able to move them over, there's no way to back that up. So I've got to download all of that stuff again, but it's fine.
That's my
I've
nightmare.
downloaded the games I care about, and I was in the middle of playing, so I've re-downloaded Days Gone, which is like a 70 GB game, so that took a good like 4 hours. And then I've actually downloaded Cult of the Lamb, which I've started playing.
Awesome.
I'm only about an hour into it, so that's what I've been playing on there. While it was gone though, like I picked up a game that I have played before and was planning on playing again on Steam Deck, but I ended up just playing it on my laptop because I had nothing else to play. Which is Papers, Please. I forgot how much I love that game. At the moment I'm playing like a total careerman who just I follow the rules. I do it to the letter, and I don't let anyone through who's not meant to be.
Damn. Heartless.
Yeah, but I didn't realize there's 20 different endings to that game. So
Really? I didn't know that.
yeah, so I want to go through and I want to find out some of the other different endings to the game, which is it's cool.
Very cool.
I like that game. It's really good, and I feel like it would work well on Steam Deck. So I'm gonna check it out with the touchscreen. I think it would work well.
Sure.
And if not, it's on mobile now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's one I never got around to. It was like always on my radar. It's like one of those games that's like on the backlog so long that you're like, I'm not gonna get to this. This game's been out for like 6 years. When am I playing it? I don't know. Eventually, maybe. Who cares? Sometime.
Yeah, but the next thing I'm gonna be checking out is Windows on Steam Deck. I've ordered a second micro SD card, so I'm gonna be installing Windows directly onto an SD card and then booting from that. And I want to check out Game Pass on Windows and see if it's worth the experience, because you lose a lot of stuff, right? You forget that it's an OS level feature to be able to just press the power button and have it sleep, and then press the power button and have it wake. Windows doesn't do that. It will turn the computer off if you press the power button, or it will go into like Windows sleep mode, which isn't really a true sleep mode, and
draining the battery,
power.
Yeah.
So I want to find out what the experience is like and if it's even worth.
That sounds awful.
It's gonna take a while.
Yeah, that does not sound appealing to me. You let me know how that goes.
Yeah, we'll do. But if it means I can play stuff like Persona 5 when it comes out, and I can get through that, and I can pick up my saves for Forza Horizon 5 and carry on playing that, then it might be worth it, especially considering it's like a dual boot scenario and I can just switch back.
Xbox put Game Pass for PC on Linux. Challenge 2023.
Yeah, I would love to see
Please.
it come to Steam. It would be so nice.
Right? Just do it. Just do it, guys. Yeah. Come on. The Steam Deck's hot. It's out there. You don't need to make an Xbox handheld. Just co-op this one. Like, please.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be what PlayStation's doing, right? We've got another game coming from them next month. Well, I think it's probably going to be 2 at this point, but we've got another one coming from them next month.
Spider-Man was verified for deck like day 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, Spider-Man was for deck day 1. Horizon is verified for deck. That's actually on sale at 60% off at the moment. I was considering picking that up.
I saw that today. I was like, $20? Damn, like that's pretty good.
God of War is, I would imagine Miles Morales is whenever that comes. I know it's due for fall. That's probably going to be their November game.
Yeah, I've heard that God of War runs really well. Like for what it is, right? Like you're taking a compromise.
Yeah, I think you're probably getting the original base PS4 experience.
30 locks.
Which I think is absolutely fine.
Yeah, for a handheld, right? Come on. Totally.
But Uncharted Legacy of Thieves is coming to PC as well in October 19th. That got announced this week. Alongside a bunch of other PlayStation news, which we'll talk about over on the Flip Screen Games podcast.
And Legacy of Thieves is 4 and Lost Legacy, right?
And Lost Legacy.
Yeah. It's so weird to me that they haven't done the Nathan Drake collection, because like now like you can't play the whole series on PC. You can only.
It's got to be that engine. That's probably the same engine that's The Last of Us uses as well. So you port this one engine that we used on PS4 for Uncharted and The Last of Us.
See, I don't know though, because Blue Point did the remake and they redid. They did their thing where they're like, oh, like we're remaking this game, but we're like making adjustments, right? Like they made Uncharted 1 play more like 2, or maybe they made 1 and 2 play more like 3. I forget exactly what it was, but like I feel like they put them in a new engine, but I could be wrong about that. I'm not totally sure on how Blue Point does that, but yeah, it does seem like weird to me that you could do it with Horizon and you could do it with Days Gone and God of War, which are all PS4 games, but like you're not going to do it with Uncharted. Like, why not do that first and then do this? Or I don't know.
I wonder if they're doing remakes like they've done with Last of Us Part 1 to bring them up to what Uncharted 4
That would
looks
actually fucking rule, now that I think about it. That would be cool.
If I can have those games with good gunplay and not horrendous, then I actually would buy those again. That would be a major improvement.
The Nathan Drake collection definitely makes them better, but like Uncharted 4
massively, though.
4 and Lost Legacy play a lot better, right? Like
Yeah.
I,
And
I
even then, the gunplay's not amazing in those games. When you compare it to
yeah.
The Last of Us Part 2, it still went a step above.
Yeah, that game's definitely the best one. I've never been as hard on their gunplay as other folks. Like
Go back and play Uncharted 1, and you're on the boat, that initial boat scene,
yeah.
and you're there, and you have to like move the like thing. It's like you're playing GoldenEye on the N64, and you're moving the like reticle around the screen to shoot.
Don't get me wrong, you're right, but like that's also how the gunplay works in like Rockstar games. Right? Like
Yeah, and
it's
but I don't really know that, but I don't want to play that either. Like that's terrible. I want decent gunplay.
yeah, I mean fair enough. I wouldn't pin a rose on it, right? But I've
Oh, yeah, I'm not right, and also don't write the game off just because of that, because like the rest of the games are like
yeah.
really great experiences, especially Uncharted 2. I would say is probably the pinnacle for me. That train scene is great.
I
You
think
go through like Nepal.
Two's probably definitely the best of the original trilogy. It's tough because I feel like 4 is like so good, but it's one of
I
those things
love
where like
Lost Legacy is really up there as well.
Lost Legacy kicks ass. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, this is cool. I would like to see these games be able to reach a wider audience on PC, because I think Uncharted is like probably one of those franchises for a lot of people. Like if you didn't have a PS3 because it was too expensive back in the day or whatever, that like you've heard a lot about, but you've never really taken the plunge, right? Even when it came to PS4. So I don't know. I think there's probably an opportunity for them to find like a whole new audience here and everything. And obviously that's the whole point of the PlayStation on PC thing, but Uncharted feels like a really good candidate for it.
I gotta say, this collection is one of Sony's best deals. It's $50 on PS5 and on PC. Honestly, if you haven't played these games, such a steal. I would recommend picking them.
It's
Whether
only
that's on your
$50.
PlayStation. It's $50, yeah.
How do they?
And if you on PlayStation, if you own either of the games as well, you can pay $20 and you'll get
For the
both of
upgrade.
them as an upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah. What the fuck?
I do not understand their pricing.
How do they?
$50 for these two, but 70 for The Last of Us Part 1. I just don't get it.
Which, like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm sure that The Last of Us Part 1 took a lot more effort than this, right? Like,
I know, but you get 2 games for 50. It's just like, what?
yeah, to me, it's more like, why wouldn't you just, like, if you're, like, you know what I mean? Like,
You're going to commit to 70, make it consistent. Like, this should be 70
yeah.
for both of them, right?
or like, not even, like, but, like, I feel like you could have gotten away with this and people would be like, well, that's reasonable. Right, $70 for 2 games from last generation. Lost Legacy's only a couple years old. Like, it's not that old, right? That came out in 2018, right? Something like that. So
Yeah, something like that.
2017, maybe. I don't know. That's so weird. All right, whatever, cool, I guess, but it just makes me question it. Like, I feel like if you reverse the price of those 2 products, the narrative would be like totally different. Like,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, people would be like, "Oh, only $50 for this
it.
Last of Us remake? That's great!" Like,
yeah. Do you think you're gonna pick this up? I kind of feel like if I'm gonna play these games again, Steam Deck would be a great place to play it, but October's packed for me, so it's just like, what's the point?
man, I don't know anymore with these. I'm so torn because I wanted to talk about this on another episode of the show at a greater capacity on like a slower week, but like because I really wanted to get Spider-Man on Steam when it came out, but I never got around to it, and my budget has been tight for games lately because I'm getting married pretty soon. So, it's like, do I really want to spend $60 on a game I already own? Like, that seems kind of insane. So I just started replaying it on PlayStation, and like, granted, I can't play it as like a wind down nighttime kind of experience like I would if it was on Steam Deck, but like, I don't know, like, I almost feel like these releases just motivate me to go back and replay these games again on PlayStation. More than it motivates me to play them on Steam Deck, but I don't know. Like, eventually, maybe, because I'm looking at Horizon now that it's like $20 on Steam, and I'm like, see, I wouldn't mind playing that again on Steam as like a casual kind of thing. Maybe the next time I want to play it, I don't know. I'm torn about it because I'm still not totally sold on the whole like do I want to play AAA games this way? Like, if I'm going to play a big open world AAA game kind of thing, like, why not just play that on the PC or on the TV and, like, on my console and have the, like, best optimized experience or whatever, and then, like, use the Steam Deck the way I've been using it, where, like, I'm playing games that feel more natively at home on Steam Deck rather than, like, let me play this game that I've played before with a bunch of compromises,
I can understand that, and we'll talk about it in more detail. But I don't know. I like the ability to go and play it anywhere, and like my consoles are in a shared space, and I want to be able to do that. I kind of feel like this is the perfect reason for Sony to do their launcher and have that cross play thing where you can cross progression, so I can pull over my PS5 save and like vice versa.
That I would do.
And then you would play Spider-Man on the PlayStation, and then be like, oh, I'll pick up my save and I'll play it on Steam Deck. It's just like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I could just do like I was doing this last night, right? Like I went and got my my COVID booster and a flu shot, and I was playing Spider-Man before I was leaving because I had 45 minutes to kill before I needed to go anywhere, and I was like, well, I don't really want to like start a story mission, so I'm just gonna go do like side stuff, right? And like get trophies or whatever. Like that would be a great thing to be able to be like, oh yeah, like let me pick up my save on my Steam Deck and play and like have it synced to my Sony account so I can still collect trophies and work on, little, bullshit checkboxy stuff in a big open world game or something like that. And then when I want to play, oh, this is one of the big story beats, like I should play this on the PlayStation and play it on the TV and, have it 60 FPS and, all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm in a weird spot where, like, I thought that was a thing I really wanted from the Steam Deck, but more and more I'm kind of like, I don't really know if I need that from it. Because, like, I'm using it in all these other ways that's the only thing I use for, right? Like, the Steam Deck has so many unique use cases for me. It's like, I don't really feel like I need it to compete for time with my Xbox and my PlayStation when they've kind of got the big AAA gaming thing covered for me. I don't know. Part of me wants to force myself to experiment with it a little bit more and try to get more comfortable with it, or like be able to articulate better why I don't want that. But yeah, I don't know.
Maybe give it a go with one of the games you've got in your library already that you would go back to, or find like a cheap open world game that you've been looking at. Because for me, they're perfect for Steam Deck. I don't want to play those big open world games on my TV anymore. I just find it boring to run around and check boxes. But somehow doing that when I'm led down on the sofa with a TV show on in the background is fine. It's something for my hands to do, and I don't mind that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I guess I get that, but for me, like, I feel like it takes away from the zen aspect of those games and like what I like about them, right? It's like, I've seen a lot.
There's no zen for Far Cry 6 when I'm running around in that. There's
Far Cry
no
6. No, but like I think a lot of people like criticize that kind of game, right? Like the whole like, oh, it's checkboxy, it's this, that. But like I was talking about it with a friend of mine, and it's like, yeah, for like my like, fucking ADHD brain of like it. There's something very fulfilling about completing a task, right?
Yeah,
and
some
like
people love it, and I heard this argument made against Elden Ring when it was like, well, there's no like things for me to check off and do, and it's just like, yeah, well, that's the point of the game. It's like you go and explore and you make notes and you figure out where you go, and it's like this sense of like, oh, I achieved that. So this guy told me about that earlier. Where was he? I need to go back and do that. And I like that, but
I think
it doesn't work for.
I think they're just different kinds of experiences, right? Because like I liked that in Breath of the Wild, right? My problems with Elden Ring and those kinds of games in general that's a conversation for another podcast. But I think like for me, when it is like the whole, okay, like rather than this being a thing that I'm committing to of like I'm losing myself a little bit in just being in the motion of playing Spider-Man, right? Or Ghost of Tsushima or whatever, where I'm running around and like I'm not in the mood to advance the story, but I want to just engage with this mechanically and live in this world. Like, to me, doing that on the handheld with TV on in the background, whatever, like that kind of gets in the way of that experience for me, I think, a little bit. And I think that's part of it is like, I don't feel like I'm immersing myself in the experience as much. And like, that's what I want out of those kinds of games. Whereas like, if I want to just like check boxes or not even check boxes, but like keep my hands busy like you're talking about. To me, I would much rather do that with like an indie game that isn't really about the story or anything like that, and it's not about like this or that. It is like, like something like Hades or Cult of the Lamb or whatever, where it's like this is just a there is a story, there is great art,
too much concentration for me. I think that's the difference. I don't know.
That's funny.
Like a Hades, I get sucked into it that I'm not paying attention to what's going on the TV,
and that's what I want though, right? Because I don't.
I get that, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes I want something mindless and doing those checkbox games. Can I give you a bit of homework before we wrap up for something I want you to check out this
final
week?
word here?
Go and check out an app on the Discover Store called Chiaki, and you'll need to follow a tutorial to set it up. It's PlayStation Remote Play for the Steam Deck, and you'll be able to play your PS5 on your Steam Deck over your local network.
Chiaki?
Chiaki, Chiaki. It's named after a Danganronpa character.
Oh shit, it is. Okay. All right. I'll look into this. So this is
and you can set up PlayStation 5 Remote Play, and you'll be able to stream it over your local network to your Steam Deck, and hopefully it will run decently if you've got a decent router, because it's just in the internal network. It should run fine, and then you'll be able to play Spider-Man on your Steam Deck while still making progression on your PS5, and that might be the solution to your problem.
That might be the way, Steve. That might be the way. Okay, I'm gonna look into this.
Should take like 15 minutes to set up, and
that's not too bad.
Once you've done it, there's a few commands you'll need to copy and paste. But once you've done that, then you'll be on your way, and you can have your PS5 set up. I've
got a pretty busy week, so if I don't get to it this week, we'll talk about it on the following week's show. But I'm gonna work on getting this set up, and I'll report back for sure. This is very, very interesting to me. Cool. Well, all right, we'll leave it there for the day. Which now I think this officially makes this our longest episode ever. Look at that. Thank you guys for joining us here on another episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. Remember, if you want to connect with us, if you want to check out our sister shows, if you want to go and show your support on Patreon, you can find links to all of those things on flipscreen.games. That's our website. Get involved however you choose to. Come be a part of the community, right into the show. However you do it, thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week.